1981. What'd you do right when you got out of high school?
I went to work in Bilo's in the grocery business.
Did you? What? So what made you decide to become a dispatcher with the sheriff's office?
After almost 18 years in the grocery business, I needed a change.
Yeah. That's a big change.
Yeah.
Did you just see a job posted there? I mean, that's a pretty, it's a different field, obviously.
Yeah, there was a job posted, and I also was looking for a change, and I grew up, my dad had scanners around the house all the time, so I enjoyed listening. And knew a lot of the codes, knew a lot of the stuff. So.
Well, that helped a lot, I'm sure. So what year did you start? About 9 years ago, so that was what, 19?
I actually started at the Hendersonville Police Department for about a year and a half.
Okay.
So I've actually been doing it for like 10 and a half years.
Okay, so you worked at the Hendersonville Police Department first?
Right.
And when was that, 1990?
98, I believe.
98. So when you first got in there, you said, you heard scanners and you knew a lot of the codes. Was it different for you? I mean, were you nervous or... because you get those calls, and some of them are minor, and some of them are major. How was it that first day on the job?
Probably the first year, 911 rings, your stomach kind of gets tight. But then after a while, you see more and more that 911 calls probably. Just guessing 80-90% of them are not legitimate emergency calls.
Right. So you worked, you said a year and a half about at the Hendersonville Police Department. So about 19 or 2000 was it you went to?
Right around. It was August of '99 when I started at the Sheriff's Department.
Sheriff's office. So you were working for George Irwin?
Yes.
Has a lot changed in the technology? Have you guys upgraded a lot, or has it pretty much been the same since about 1999? It's probably been...
We've made a lot of changes. Computer software changes, and you have to change with the times in order to... overall, we haven't changed the way we look or anything a lot. Just software changes. More call volume now? Oh, yes.
Yeah, a lot more calls. One big question I had for you is everybody always says when it's a full moon, you get more crazy people out. Do you guys receive more calls when it's like that?
Yes.
Is that, I don't know if you could, I know you can't explain it, but I guess you just say you do get more calls when there's a full moon.
Yeah, you do.
Do you remember, if you can talk about it, do you remember one of the strangest calls that you've had, or one of the most serious calls that you've had?
Well, the most serious call that I've had, I guess, that kind of bothered me was the house fire when the lady was killed in Girton. Her back cave was. And I took that call from one of the children in the house. That kind of bothered me a little bit.
And I guess they teach you, to keep the children or keep anybody calm and collected. Yeah, as best you can. That's an important role to keep somebody calm. What do you like most about your job?
I enjoy helping people. In my off time, I'm also a volunteer fireman.
For what department?
Valley Hill. I enjoy helping people, and that's.
When did you start at the Valley Hill Fire Department?
I've been there about 12 years.
12 years. What made you decide to volunteer with them?
Well, I had actually lived right before they built the new department. I lived right beside the old department for probably 7-8 years, and I had talked about it, and actually went to talk to the fire department, and the guy at the time that I talked to was telling me, all training and all this kind of stuff. And at that time, I just didn't have the time.
Right.
So I didn't, and then a few years later, I decided I was going to do it anyway.
Mm-hmm. That's good. And what else do you like to do in your off time? I mean, I know you said you've worked at the fire department. What do you like to do hobby-wise? Do you have anything that you particularly like to do?
Sports, or any kind of sports.
Yeah.
My daughter played softball, my son played baseball, still plays baseball.
What would you suggest to people, when they have an emergency? I mean, you just definitely call 911 or?
Yeah, definitely call 911 if it's an emergency.
Mm-hmm.
Our thing is we get people calling either trying to check their phone, which at times is okay,
mm-hmm.
but then we get calls for people wanting directions and what time it is and anything you can imagine.
Is that the 911 line that they're calling?
Yes.
I mean, and there is a non-emergency number they can call, so
yes,
that's probably something they need to...
People use the 911 line for information.
Really? So that's a big, I guess, a problem that some people need to
yes,
to realize.
Definitely.
Okay. Any other strange calls you can recall?
I mean, we get calls from people. I mean, we have some people that call quite frequently,
mm-hmm.
and one lady calls and tells us that she has a monster in her attic, but she lives in a trailer. So you get some strange calls.
I bet you do. Any particular things that stand out for you working for the fire department? Any major fires that you've been out on, or anything that you can recall?
The major thing that I remember was the wreck on Crab Creek Road.
Mm-hmm.
The 2 boys and the 3 girls, or the 2 boys were killed and the 3 girls were severely injured.
Mm-hmm.
I was one of the first ones on scene.
How do you deal with stuff like that? I mean,
it gets to you. I mean, that one still,
mm-hmm.
We have it posted on the walls at the firehouse, and every once in a while I'll stand there and look at it. Because that one, and part of the problem that day I had was, at that time Austin was like 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
He was in the truck with me
gosh.
and was like sitting there watching everything.
Yeah.
And he could see that, and that bothered me.
Mm-hmm.